move on to the next pair, and the next pair is slightly different, but yet it carries through with the theme of totem style earrings. At least I call them that because that's kind of what they look like to me. These ones basically gave me the lesson of a lifetime when I was creating them. They reminded me to, you know, not forget to be present even with my craft, because sometimes I get a little bit cocky and I think, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm just going to cruise through this while I listen to a podcast, and typically it doesn't happen that way. So with these ones I actually had to remake 3 times because I kept on, I don't know, falling asleep on the job, I guess. But I'm really happy how they turned out. As you can see, they also have a good weight. These ones use my absolute favorite semi-precious stone, and this is these Cornelians, which historically, and still some people call them Cornelians because there's a confusion in the naming. They used to think that they're named after the Spanish word for meat, which is carne, because you can see it kind of looks, you know, it's this deep red, deep, like really solid red. I call it creamy red, right? And then it's got sometimes it has these flecks of white inside that looks almost like meat. But actually they're called Cornelians because they're named after the Latin word for heart, which is cor. So anyway, that's a bit of information for you. I'm also using these amazing pink opals that create like a little bit of softness between the vintage findings that are a little bit more regal. You can see they've got a little bit of a shine. Yeah. There's this sophistication with the bling up here, again vintage findings, and then there are these sophisticated opals on top. I love working with not opals, sorry about that, moonstones, definitely not opals. You can see even I sometimes confuse myself. Yeah, and they feature my forever link, which is quite a robust link, which is why it's called the forever link. So yeah, if you like these, again, the direct links are in the description below. And if you don't plan to get them yourself, feel free to share them with someone who you feel they would suit and they would light up their day. We all have our personal style, so these are a little bit more kind of a deeper color. The way I would usually style them is with similar colors, and then maybe with a neutral white color, so that you can bring a little bit more of a tangible, sophisticated pop in the outfit. But again, how you choose to style them is entirely up to you, because we all have our own personal visions for how we want to be seen in the world. Right, and finally I'm going to move on to this pair on the right, at least my right. Yeah, I'm not very good with directions. These guys, again, carry the nuance of the pinks and kind of like reddish colors, but they, to me, are probably the most feminine of the lot. And yet, I try to incorporate them with these vintage findings that are kind of like a deep, like a wine gum purple. I don't know if you can see the colors now. Obviously, bear in mind that I'm trying my best to give you the full nuance of the colors, or a true kind of reflection of the colors, but what you get, you know, each person's eyeballs perceive color in a slightly different nuance, so please just bear that in mind, that it might seem a little bit different. Over here, what I've done is I have played on my personal favorite trend of late. Not that I follow trends, but this just happens to play into my hands. My creative style is I love to mix metal colors. So you can see that some of the vintage findings here in silver, and I've combined them with like a rustic antique gold, and then with some of the newer gold. But it all somehow really, or somehow, obviously intentionally, works really nicely together. And again, they're totem style earrings, so they hang in a very individual, quirky way. I think these ones would suit a really, maybe a deep purple colored suit, and then you bring a little bit of playfulness to it just to tone down the seriousness of the purple. But you could also just as well use it as a brightener, or adding like a little bit more of a color to a very neutral dress or even a suit. And again, I've said this before, but for me it's always fun to mix styles and juxtapose them, because it creates the most questions in my mind and it expands my own consciousness, but it also creates questions in whoever's observing it on the outside. That, you know, inevitably they wonder like, oh, could I do this, for example, for myself, juxtapose the two different styles? So I would probably style them with my favorite pair of jeans and then a nice creamy white suit coat or something like that. Yeah, the stones that I've used, just very briefly, the stones that I've used here are these cherry quartzes. And quartz is known as typically the stone for love and romance. And love doesn't just have to be outward to someone else, but especially self-love, which is probably one of the most difficult things to get right throughout our lifetimes. That's what we struggle with, I think, the most, is self-love. And then again, I have combined them with these stunning, like a dusty rose-colored moonstones, which I called opals before. And then finally a little rose quartz, just to create a little bit more of a vulnerability and a, you know, like innocence into the pair. Right, so those are them. Again, I'm going to mention that the direct links are in the description, so if you fancy a pair, please feel free to go and get them. I only make one of each because I really believe in the power of self-expression, and also I'm a little bit impatient when I create stuff. So when I make one, and the materials I work with, is, you know, they basically only allow me to make one of each kind, so when they're gone, they're gone. And if you see a pair that you feel someone else would absolutely love, please feel free to share them, share the links with them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe so that you could be one of the first people to know when I release new pairs. Yeah, that's it from me for the day. I'm hoping that you haven't heard too much of the building works from outside, but I can't do anything about those. And thank you for watching. Bye bye. Ta-da!